Institutions of food preparation inherently overproduce food. Prepaid meal plans necessitate cooking enough food for a full house with guests. Profit-motivated restaurants prepare more food than is demanded. Since most students do not have the time or facilities to cook their own food, food institutions congregate on college campuses. So, overproduction of food is concentrated on college campuses. In 1987, to alert people of this extra production of food and to turn a waste into a use, 2 Stanford students started a program to save extra food. The program is SPOON, the Stanford Project on Nutrition. Because of SPOON, each year Stanford saves 30,000 pounds of unneeded, untouched food. Several hundred otherwise hungry people receive this food every week. The founders of SPOON started their program in a small dorm, independent of the university food service. Such a start meant that they only had to negotiate with the cooks hired by their own dorm before they began salvaging food. Usually, in a small dorm, a house resident keeps an eye open for extra food at the end of each meal. First, the volunteer washes her hands. Then she puts the food into a freezer bag provided by SPOON. It is a good idea to keep the bags on hand in the kitchen of the dorm. Check with the county health department to find out what kind of freezer bag is safe for storing food. Often there is not a lot of food saved at any one meal in such a small dorm. Every little bit, however, counts. For example, small loads like these added up to 90 pounds one quarter. When SPOON first started, they took small loads, like this one, straight to the community soup kitchen. But eventually, they acquired a room and a storage freezer to collect the food in one place before taking it to the soup kitchen. We keep a lock on the door of the SPOON room to ensure that only members of SPOON go into the room. Once in the room, the volunteer weighs the food, records the food, and makes a label with the same information: the date, place where the food was made, what the food is, and how much food there is. Every volunteer receives a brief training so that he or she knows how to treat the food and the storeroom. Before beginning, volunteers read the county health guidelines for saving food, and then they sign a slip of paper saying that they agree to follow these procedures. Following a university food service policy, these cafeterias can only serve food twice. Then, although the food is still edible, they can do nothing with it. The students of SPOON explained their program, showed how successfully they saved extra edible food, and the dorm cafeterias began to participate. Now, instead of throwing thousands of pounds of food away, big dorms, like this one, save their food for SPOON. At the end of the meal, the cook wraps the food to be stored. He puts the food into a refrigerator to cool off before the food will be saved.
The reason we like to put it in the walk-in first is it's usually hot, it's very hot, and you can't put it in these bags, it will rip, and the food will come out and it's a big mess. Usually I like to put the name of what the food is. Once it's frozen, they can't really tell what it is.
Involving the university food service can be the most trying part of starting a food salvage program, because liability issues arise. SPOON had to prove that students would follow the state and county health guidelines for saving food. Before you make a presentation to your food service, research your state's law concerning food donation. When you speak to the cooks and the administrators, let them know that you understand the law. You want to work with them, and especially emphasize that you only want to take their extra food. Stanford's experience proves that food service workers become helpful participants.
What we did in the freezer, we don't have a big freezer, so what we did was put in these barrels. And we can easily move around in there. It's a lot easier to put it in it because we don't want to just put it on the ground and it's hard to maneuver around it. That way, it's all in one space. And if an accident happens, the bag does break. Sometimes they do. It's rare. It will break in there and it won't be a mess in the rest of the freezer.
Eventually, food service became Spoon's biggest contributor.
Very simple.
That's great.
So we usually do that about twice a week, and just try to combine some of the foods. There's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Sometimes I combine it to make it worthwhile. So, okay.
To keep up friendly relations, volunteers should make sure to be regular. Otherwise, the bags of food will pile up and begin to get in the cook's way. Cynthia and John, for example, arrive at this dorm every Friday at 4. Because they have a set day and time for the pickup, they never miss a week's worth of food. For a successful program, volunteers must be consistent. As students, we sometimes get into the habit of cramming for tests and pulling all-nighters for papers. But in a food salvage program, this doesn't work. If the food isn't frozen on time, it will go bad. If the food isn't picked up on time, it will be thrown away. If Cynthia and John had not shown up this day, 300 pounds of healthy food would have been thrown away. As John and Cynthia agree, it's not very much time to save so much food. It's not hard to do.
Look at how much food we bring in. Or it's just, and like we only spend 45 minutes, so.
And hey, we can exercise carrying 50-pound sacks of food. A little weightlifting. So it's definitely worth, what is it, like an hour a week or less? Which, you get a pretty high return on it for your time, like in personal satisfaction. Feeling like you've done something positive.
Once in the spoon room, the volunteers weigh, label, and record in the logbook. There are many reasons to keep a logbook. It helps us to keep track of our progress. Since 1987, we have gone from just the few hundred pounds of food from one dorm to over 30,000 pounds of food from 35 different campus eateries. In addition, the logbook helps volunteers to stay conscious of what they're doing. They're storing many bags of real food that has a name, and this food will be eaten by someone.